So I had this massive review of Sifu planned, but midway through the editing process, the difficulty patch dropped and kind of threw everything out of whack. And then it hit me. Everyone whose opinions have real sway on getting people to play this game already said what they said and generally gave the game positive reviews and hawked at the high heavens, so I thought, why be like them? Why not make the content that I'm not seeing? And that's why you and I are here today, to discuss my rankings on every level in the game, played on master difficulty without dying once. There may be some hot takes, so if you've played through the game many times or are a first-time player, please let me know your ranking in the comments before watching the video, and then see how they differ by the time you get to the end. Hopefully we can talk and share some tech, you know? Anyways, on with the show. So I'm going to give an honorable mention to the first level, the tutorial level, the Wuguan, I believe it's called. I wouldn't really rank this level with the others. You have infinite health and can't really fail, but the level is still really cool. It's like an invasion of your master's old school in the dead of night during a rainstorm, carving a path of whooped asses until the end when you kill your master in front of his kid. It's some classic A1 kung fu shit. But it doesn't get a ranking because A, you can't fail, and B, it's a tutorial, but still top tier stuff though. Now the easiest level in the game is the club. And I know what some of you may be thinking, especially if you're a newer player. Are you insane? How can the club be the easiest level in the game if it saw like a 50% or something player decrease by the time you get to the end? And trust me, I'm well aware of how much of a pain in the ass it was to beat Sean before that first patch dropped, because I did it 3 days before the patch dropped. But we'll get back to him. This is about the whole level and not just him. Now, the club seems hard at first. However, a lot of the combat encounters have a lot of great methods for spacing. There's lots of like counters to hop, lots of bottles, weapons, and fucking, sofas to push and toss and walls to toss people into, etc, etc. There's only like 5 enemy types in the level and they aren't too often mixed together. The most you'll see is maybe a powered up thug and a juggernaut fighting in the same room. You get to fight a disciple one-on-one 2 separate times, a flash kick one-on-one, 2 juggernauts, 2 flash kicks, one of which is very easy to insta-kill, and 2 disciples back-to-back, and that's really the extent of it. The levels after the club give you a way harder combo of enemies to deal with, especially the tower, and we'll get to that. And add on top of that a boss that has some really easy patterns to learn, and you've got yourself one easy level to complete. Like seriously, it's just a bunch of high avoids and a low avoid on disciple difficulty, and most of the time on master he opens up with a sweep that you can easily, avoid and punish, and the sweep is way easier to see coming these days, especially after that first patch, so you should be good. Now the second easiest level is the squats, the first level, that, level where you're fighting through meth labs and shit. On master difficulty, the squats got a real boost in difficulty because on disciple, it's a cakewalk. The level itself is still intensely easy with a slight boost of frustration because I'm not too terribly sure that these encounters were designed for enhanced enemy aggression. The camera gets really wonky in some spots, but it's still fairly easy. The part that gets the biggest boost and makes it harder than the club is Fajar. Just insane 50-50 mix-ups, let me tell you. And if you don't know how to deal with them, they can be a serious pain in the ass. Learning his strings, though, is for the birds. Now let me give you some serious game. Peep game, alright? Back the fuck up. Now, you're watching the gameplays right now, and you can see that I just run away from him, wait for him to do that big leap off the flower box move, avoid, and punish for the solid bread and butter combo. Alright, throw in some focus attacks, rinse and repeat. Phase 1, done. And you can apply the same principle to phase 2. Fajar is like a low-level Tekken player. He just throws moves out in neutral and overcommits. And so you can take those little bamboo sticks that are hiding everywhere. I think there's like 4 of them scattered around the phase 2 area, or 3 of them, or however many, and just chuck them at him while he's like just kicking the air in front of you and trying to kick you and he's nowhere near you. Trust me, if you're watching the gameplay, you can see that I'm just letting him overcommit just repeatedly and punishing him for it. He's a real idiot, Just throw the bamboo, hit him with some B&Bs and focus attacks. You want to beat Fajar? Don't play his game because the house always wins. Now coming into the square middle, not too hard, not too easy, the museum. This level used to be way easier, but the one thing that leaves it stuck in the middle is that the run up to Kuroki isn't too terrible, but she is terrible now. I remember when she used to be fairly easy in the second phase, but we'll get to her later. The bigger rooms in this level certainly feel way smaller because of the enhanced enemy aggression, especially that room with the giant ink spinner thingy and the room full of partitions and the weird art room with all the flash kicks and the sumo bodyguard where it's raining, you know? Besides that, I wouldn't say this is too overbearing. It's got the best shortcut in the game. It leads you straight up to Kuroki after you defeat the first two enemies. But she is the biggest hurdle in this level though. Her first phase used to be the hardest phase for any boss, and now it's the easiest part of this fight, which should say a lot. You're going to want to look out for her low high string. It's pretty easy to punish, and then spam the sideways avoid for her big running spinning attack. That's what I do. Punish those, throw in some B&Bs with focus attack. Phase 1's easy, but phase 2 is where it gets to be really structure shattering, and I don't say that lightly. Her drop kick will destroy a fully maxed out and empty structure bar, like shatter it completely, and take off a bit of your health too. She also has an annoying 50-50 mix-up, like Fajar does, so you'd have to stay away from that. Now, my strategy for her is the exact same for Fajar, is just to back up. She's gonna try and jump backwards and throw her kunai at you. You can dodge that, you can even catch it and then throw it back at her for some damage. But what I did was I used the focus gain upgrade to fill my bar faster by avoiding that and by avoiding her dash attacks. You know, where her kunai knife does the little white flash and she dashes towards you. So sometimes she'll try to fake you out, but the worst thing you can do in that situation is panic, because then it'll lead you to messing up. But the main thing I did was apply the ancient Chinese execution method of Ling Chi, or death by 1,000 cuts, by step kicking her every time she ran towards me. You can see that in the gameplay. Just add in some focus attacks, some B&B punishes, she'll be dead in no time. She would be the hardest boss in the game if it weren't for these later guys. The second hardest level in Sifu is the Sanctuary. Surprisingly, the Sanctuary is not too terribly difficult. The run up to Yang is fairly straightforward. If you've gotten to this level, you can handle these guys, no doubt. The issue with this level though is Yang himself. You cannot focus attack this dude at all. Holding L2 is essentially a waste of time, and it feels like a waste of, you know, your shrine upgrades, honestly, when you first fight him. You have to parry, avoid, and punish your way to victory, if you're normal. Me, I do love me a good bait and punish. So Yang likes to walk around, right? He likes to walk around. Sometimes he'll taunt, but when he's walking around with his hands kind of in a combat stance, what I like to do is, with a heavy attack, dodge his 2-hit punish, and then hit him with raining strikes. I lather, rinse, repeat. If he's far away, I step kick. He does the same 2-hit punish. If you're up close, neutral heavy. He does the same 2-hit punish. It's pretty easy to avoid the second hit, and then just, you know, raining strikes. Phase 2 is even easier, because if you avoid 2 hits of his attack string in a row, he has a sudden need to sweep you. Under the Mayo did a fantastic video on whether or not the sweeps are random. Turns out they're not. Just avoid, hop the sweep, then punish. And if you see him try to do that glow fist attack, you know, just hold that left bumper and start spamming that right stick to the side so hard that it'll make your granny shake. Yang doesn't play around, so you shouldn't either. He's a jabroni at heart, so treat him like one. And the hardest level in the game, the tower. Now, why is the tower the hardest level in the game to me? 2 reasons. This room right here that you're seeing is a pain in the ass. Your instinct is to run in and start busting heads, but the enemy spawn order combined with the tower's stupid brown flash dust gimmick thingy and the bad camera will have you trapped in a room with a flash kick, a bodyguard, and a thug with a knife with barely any room to run around or get your bearings. Be sure to defeat the enemies one at a time. First a thug, then the flash kick, then the other 2 guys, and then the bodyguard and the knife wielder. In that order. You can kill the knife wielder first, that's what I usually do, but make sure you take out 1 thug, then the flash kick, then the other thugs. Works every time, and it'll have your frustration in this room cutting down immensely. But before we'll talk about Grandma Jinfeng, which is the second big reason why this level is really hard, we'll talk about the first half though. So the rooms in the first half of the tower when you're going through the actual office building are just full of enemies with weird combinations, so brain-bustingly difficult to have you ask an old Vince McMahon for a job. You get elites, flash kicks, juggernauts, and thugs packed together in this insanely tight area with nowhere for you to run. And then you get to Grandma Jinfeng, who has to bop you on the head and shatter your structure bar with her Shangbao that'll literally leave your head spinning. It's the same deal with Kuroki's dropkick. It immediately shatters your structure bar. It's insane. This level's easy to beat if you have insane parry timing though. All of her strings are fully parryable, and she eats focus attacks about as well as a dog eats a Mars bar. The parry impact ability makes this fight a breeze if you have it. I did not. I found it way easier on the other fights to just use focus gain upgrades and structure regain upgrades and maxed out structure, yada yada yada. I used parry impact for my Wuda run, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna not want to repeat my mistakes. Grab those parry impacts on the squats and in the club, and you will be set. Trust me. Your best move would just be to eat all your deaths at your high age, and then go to training mode and activate phase 2 and master the parries. Trust me, you will thank me. And with that, we are finished. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you commented and left a like and subscribed. Those go a real long way, and I want to know what your rankings are for these levels, especially if you're like me and have done the game on master difficulty, and also especially if you haven't, if you're a newer player, I want to know what you think about these levels and whether or not the advice I'm giving you is interesting and what you did to beat these bosses. You know what I mean? Just leave a comment below, leave a like, and leave a subscribe. Check out my podcast, the Adam and Joe After Hours podcast. It's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. All the links are in the description and on my YouTube channel, so be sure to check those out. And hey, thanks for watching and have a great day.
We await your return, warrior.